Hello and welcome to the show. If you've ever been concerned about your personal safety or the safety of your family, today is the show that you want to watch. Our guest today has years and years of experience of helping folks to understand how to protect themselves as well as their family. Today, Alfred J Dix III. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Man, I'm excited to have you here. You know, first of all, let's start out with the fact that you are a Dallasite. Grew up here in Dallas, and
Yes,
then
sir.
you went off and spent 23 years in the Marines.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for your dedication and your commitment to not only your safety, but the safety of our fellow Americans by the service that you have served in our country.
Well, thank you so much.
I want to get that out of the way first.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's talk about this, man. You grew up in Dallas, and then you went and spent 23 years in the Marines. Let's talk about your upcoming here in Dallas, and then that decision to then go and enlist into the Marine Corps.
Okay. Well, as you said, I grew up here in Dallas, and being that I was growing up in West Dallas and I grew up in South Oak Cliff area, I was looking for an opportunity to get out of my certain situation I had there.
Yeah.
Being in an economical development that wasn't productive for Black people, I was looking for an opportunity or a career, if you would, at that time,
Yeah.
that was going to advance me or put me in a position to be where I am today.
Yeah. And you made that a career. I mean, because when you talk about 23 years in the Marines, and you not only just served, I want to make a distinction in your service. As right before you retired, you were a marksmanship instructor.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about what does that mean when you say a marksmanship instructor?
A marksmanship instructor is someone who actually teaches someone who's never fired a weapon before or who has weapon experience how to actually put the round in the X.
Okay.
So basically, if you're hitting the target, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But to hit the target where you aim is something totally different. That's what marksmanship does.
Yes.
Marksmanship actually teaches you the different techniques on how to actually hit the target where you're aiming at.
Man, so you're responsible for helping our Marines understand how to actually hit the target which they're firing at.
Yes, sir.
So helping to save a lot of lives and helping to, of course, then further protect our country.
Yes, sir.
Man, I appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
So when you, as your opportunity to go enlist in the Marines, coming out of West Dallas, you probably didn't have a chance to travel a whole lot growing up. But when you enlisted in the Marines, you had the opportunity to go to several countries, as well as across our nation. Talk about that experience and what that meant to you.
Well, it meant a lot to me because when I first joined, the recruiter told me about travel and adventure, and I can only imagine of what I read in books about being in Paris or France or being on the sea or the ocean, and having the opportunity to travel not only the continental United States. I've been to 48 states out of the 50,
Yeah.
and then going overseas. My first overseas trip was into Haiti. Mm-hmm. I went to Cuba. I was on that thing back in '94. Going down into Cuba, I read about Cuba, and it was exciting to be there. And then to actually go to Haiti, and then for vacation we went to the Bahamas, and I had never been to the Bahamas. So having an opportunity to go to the Bahamas, that to me was an awesome experience.
Yeah. So, when you see young people today that are coming up and you see young men and women who may not have a sense of what they want to do for a career, do you encourage them to enlist into the military? And if so, why?
I actually encourage them just to go talk to a recruiter.
Okay.
Because a recruiter does more than just enlist people in the military. They're career counselors.
Yeah.
They can counsel you in the determination of which way you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want to go into the career workforce, whether you want to go to school. They also offer opportunities for college and tell you opportunities for money for college. Mm-hmm. And you don't actually have to join the service. But if they do want to join the service, I do highly recommend it because when they go in, they're going to go in with one thing and they're going to come out with something totally different. And it's going to help them throughout the rest of their lives.
Yeah. That's been the case for you as well.
Yes, sir, it has been.
Let's talk about this. I mean, I know you may be a little bit biased, but I guess when you say the different areas they can enlist in the military in, would you recommend Air Force or would you recommend Army or would you recommend Marine?
Well,
I don't know.
I'm biased to the Marine Corps, but the Marine Corps is not for everybody. Okay. And everybody's not for the Marine Corps.
Yes.
So I would say go talk to different services, and whatever service that they feel that is comfortable with, that's the service they want to go into.
Yeah.
I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he told me he was going into the Army, and I asked him why, and he said, well, they're going to pay for college. Mm-hmm. They're going to pay for my college expenses that he already has.
Yes.
And I said, well, that's the best service for you. He said, well, I thought about the Marines. I said, well, the Marines are not going to pay that, so go with the Army. If the Army's going to pay that college, go with the Army. And he said, okay, I appreciate that, sir.
Man. All right. So we talked about the fact you've enlisted in the Marines, you've now retired a Marine, and now you're back here in Dallas and you have founded your own company, D3 Weapons Training. We're going to talk more about that when we come back.
All right. Thank you.
We're going to talk about your personal safety when we come back. Stay with us.
Howdy, folks. It's the biggest annual event in the Lone Star State. Hundreds of can't-miss activities are included in admission, like free concerts, shows, and activities for the whole family. Fun, fantastic food, thrilling rides and games. Texas-sized fun deep in the heart of Dallas. Don't wait for the gate. Buy your State Fair of Texas tickets, food, and ride coupons online and save big at BigTex.com. September 29th through October 22nd in Fair Park.
Welcome back. Today we're talking with Alfred J Dix III. He's a retired Marine. He's also an entrepreneur, and I really like talking about entrepreneurship. Alfred, before we went to break, we talked about the fact that you're a retired Marine, but now let's get into the part that I really love, the fact that you didn't just retire from the military and say, you know what, I'm just going to go home and sit and play golf and do nothing else. You said, you know, I want to continue this whole weapons training thing. Now you're actually training and teaching civilians on how to do a lot of the things that you taught Marines to do in the military. Talk about how D3 weapons training came to be.
D3 weapons came to be with my passion for teaching marksmanship and teaching people how to shoot. And basically what I wanted to do is I wanted to get involved. Yeah. And so to get involved, I had to actually had to have a license. Mm-hmm. So I applied to the state, the Department of Public Safety, for the course. And of course, most law enforcement are trainers. Mm-hmm. And so they took me as a military trainer. And I went down to the course, and I actually got my certificate and my license, yeah. And that's when I started D3 weapons. Yeah.
So folks need to understand that when you see someone who says they're a licensed to carry instructor, they're not just someone who just decided, well, I'm just going to start doing this. No, you actually had to apply through the state and become licensed to be able to even do what you do.
Right. You had to apply through the state. It was a rigorous course, but I got it, and I went down for the course, and I wasn't going to go to the course. However, but my fiance, she encouraged me. She said, you should go. Yeah. And so I went, and then it was the best thing I've ever done since then.
Wait a minute, though. I heard you say that it was a rigorous course.
Right.
This is the guy who spent 23 years in the Marines. This is the marksmanship instructor.
Right.
What was tough about the course for you?
What was tough about the course for me is on the battlefield, in a Marine, you know who the enemy is.
Okay.
On the civilian side, you don't know who the enemy is.
Wow.
So you have to transition to say, okay, that mindset from being military to civilian, you had to make that transition. And that's what I had to do. That's why it was tough for me.
Yeah.
So now I'm learning from different perspectives and different angles on, okay, how do I actually approach this situation? And it's completely different.
I want to talk about that a little bit more. We're going to go off a little bit more, but I want to talk about that. You talk about this shift of a mindset from the military experience to now coming to civilian life. How difficult of a shift is that for you?
Well, for me, it was quite difficult at first. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because in the military, you live in utopia. Yeah. Everything that you need is going to be there. Work schedule, everything's going to come as you want it.
Yeah.
Coming into the civilian sector, people don't operate the same way we do in the military. Mm-hmm. You know, getting up in the morning, having breakfast ready at 7 o'clock or 6:30, it's not going to happen unless you go get it yourself. You know, traffic situations. You don't live on the base. The base is like a city within the city itself. Mm-hmm. You know, we have everything is self-sufficient. Coming out here in the civilian sector, you have to do everything on your own.
Yeah.
You know, and then no one's going to tell you how to do it, where to do it. There's not going to be a structure at work, if you will, to say, hey, we're going to do this at this time. This is going to happen at this time. This is what's going to go ahead this time. Mm-hmm. Now, you do have a schedule,
yes,
but that schedule in the civilian sector could sway left or right. In the military, it has to be right on every time.
Man. So I think that's something for family members of loved ones who went off to the military and have come back home. I think that's something to be mindful of, because you have to then be patient to allow them to work through this mind shift, if you will.
Right, most definitely. And I had a great support family.
Yeah.
My family supported me throughout this whole transition. They made it very seamless.
Yeah.
And for me, it was kind of seamless, but I did find myself having frustrations at some point.
Yeah.
You know, making a phone call to someone or someone asking you to call them at 10 o'clock, and you call that person at 10 o'clock and they tell you, well, hey, when I say 10, I meant the 10 o'clock hour. You know?
Yeah. When I say 10 in the military, I mean 10, or my life depends on it.
Exactly.
Kind of like we heard from A Few Good Men, where he said, you know, I can't remember the scene exactly, but Jack Nicholson talk about the fact that, hey, our life depends on being on time and structure and order.
Exactly.
You come here and there's no structure, there's no order. Just whatever goes.
Yeah, exactly.
So that frustrates you quite a bit, I'm sure. Now, you also do work with Tarrant County Sheriff Department.
Yes, sir.
Do you see that same structure and order in that environment without putting them under the bus, I guess?
Well, I would say this. It's a paramilitary organization. And what we mean by that is that it has a rank structure, It has a chain of command, and it has a standard operating procedure.
Okay.
And so it does sort of function sort of like a military, but it's not exactly. It's a civilian organization.
Yeah.
But it still does have that military structure.
So they certainly benefit by having someone with your experience, and you benefit by having that paramilitary experience. So it allows you to be able to have the best of both worlds. You're transitioning to the civilian world, but you're still somewhat in a structured environment.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, we told the folks we're going to talk about the actual weapons training, and I promised them we're going to do that. But we're going to take one more break, and just so they'll know that you actually brought your your training weapon. Let's take a quick look at that right before we go to break.
Okay.
That's what we're going to actually show you when we come back. We're going to actually show you how to hold the weapon for those of you who may have a weapon in your home or don't want to have a weapon in your home because you're concerned about safety. This man is certified and licensed and knows how to carry a weapon safely in a way that's going to help you to protect your family at times you may need it most. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Howdy, folks.
It's the biggest annual event in the Lone Star State. Hundreds of can't-miss activities are included in admission, like free concerts, shows, and activities for the whole family. Fun, fantastic food, thrilling rides and games. Texas-sized fun deep in the heart of Dallas. Don't wait for the gate. Buy your State Fair of Texas tickets, food, and ride coupons online and save big at BigTex.com. September 29th through October 22nd in Fair Park.
All right, welcome back. We've been having a great conversation with Alfred J Dix III, a retired Marine Corps member, as well as now an entrepreneur right here in Dallas-Fort Worth. Alfred, before we went to break, we promised the folks that we're going to talk to them about weapons safety and all the things that they can do to protect themselves.
Right.
Let's first of all start off with the fact that most folks are a little reluctant to even have a gun in their home.
Right.
For various reasons. I mean, they hear some scary stories, children picking up guns, things of that nature. Talk about the safest way to bring a gun into your home and how to protect your family.
The safest way to bring a gun into the home, I would say, in my professional opinion, is to actually get the children trained.
Okay.
You know, and I do that. I train children for free. So if a parent is going to enroll in my course, I would recommend that they bring their children to the course, so that way we can teach the kids as well what to do if you find dad or mom's gun unsecured. And what we mean by unsecured is that the weapon has not been locked up, the weapon has not have no safety device on it that the child doesn't know about. And what I brought today was one of the locks. This lock is one of the locks that comes with most weapons. When you purchase a firearm, a handgun, this is going to be inside that kit.
Okay.
Right? And so we teach parents how to use this lock when they're not using their weapon at the house, to lock it away so that way they make sure that the children, if the children do find the weapon, that the weapon is secure and it's locked away.
Okay. So is there a particular age group in which they may be too young to participate in your training?
I would say 10 years and older. We do take some 9-year-olds or 8-year-olds. It depends on the parent and how they feel with that child coming into the course.
Okay.
But I would say I like training from 8 to 10 and higher.
Okay.
You know, and up to 17.
But you know, I like what you're saying, because I guess the first thing is to make the child aware of the fact that there is in fact a gun in the home.
Right.
And then secondly, understand the responsibility that one has to have with that gun. And you are not capable, unless you've been trained, you're not capable of handling this. So please stay away from it.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So let's talk about, you showed the lock. How do you place that lock on the firearm? And I know we don't have time to do a whole demonstration, but just give an idea based on those weapons that you have.
Okay.
How would one place that lock on there?
All right, this weapon here that I have here is just a piece of plastic. It doesn't actually have any moving parts on it.
Yeah, we didn't want you to have a live gun on the set.
Right. So basically, when the slide's open and the magazine, which is on this side here, is removed, it's created an opening. And basically what you'll do is, I didn't bring the keys for this lock here, but this would actually slide through.
Okay.
And then you would lock it to, it would look just like this right here. And it'll
Okay.
be locked. So that way, no one can put a magazine in, the slide won't actuate, the weapon is now safe.
Okay.
It will not operate.
Now, here's a challenge that I have. I love the idea of having the gun locked. My only challenge is, part of my reason for having a gun in my home is I want to be able to protect my family in need of someone trying to enter my home.
Right.
If it's locked like this, what do you advise if I don't want to keep it locked away like this? What do you advise me to do?
What I advise you to do is, they also sell safes. They sell like little hand safes, biometric safes, something that can go right on a nightstand. And that way you can have the weapon inside that nightstand, in the biometric safe, fingerprinted, it's key coded. And so that way, if you want to have your weapon loaded inside that safe, if someone was to break into your home, basically sitting on the table next to you, you put your fingerprints on there and it opens up.
There you are.
And the firearm slides right out. And
Okay.
now I'm ready to defend my home if necessary.
Okay, yeah. I mean, and that's the purpose of a weapon, being able to defend your home if necessary.
Correct.
So many times we think, I live in a certain neighborhood or whatever, and that's not going to happen to me, so I don't really need that. But I guess we have to be realistic and say that most of the time when folks want to go and break in a home, they're not going to a poor neighborhood to break in a home.
Right.
They're generally going to go to that neighborhood where you least expect it.
Exactly.
So that's probably all the more of a reason to have something to protect your family, would you think?
Most definitely. I would say home security is number one. Protect you and your loved ones, and that's the reason why I would say taking the training is going to allow you to know what to do and how to react in the situation. Having a safety alarm or a security alarm, which I do have in my home, it does bring that awareness.
Yes.
And then 9 times out of 10, when someone breaks into your home, they're probably breaking into your home because they don't think that you're at home. So your presence in the home alone is going to deter someone from coming in.
Yes.
However, if that person continues to come in, even though they know that you're at the house and they hear the alarm going off, that's when this comes into play.
Right.
And this will be used as a last resort. So to take someone's life or to pull a weapon on someone and shoot someone, most civilians wouldn't think about doing that.
Right.
And when we take the course and you learn about deadly force is something that you're going to use as a last resort. And so I've trained around the world. I've trained police officers, state troopers, in New Jersey, with the LA County Sheriff's Department. And so when you talk about deadly force, it's something that you really don't want to do.
Yeah. But what you're training in your course is to at least be able to kill the threat, or at least, maybe kill is not the best word, but at least be able to ward off the threat coming against you.
Deterrence.
Yeah.
That's number one, is deterrence.
Okay. So let's talk about, how does one go about enrolling in your course?
Basically what you do is I have the website. It's www.d3weaponstraining.com, or you can call me on my cell phone at 817-313-1964. And basically what we do is we have a screening process.
Yes.
And in that screening process, I ask you basic questions about why you want to take the course.
Yes.
And then based off the determination on why you want to enroll in my course, then we then assign you to a class. And once you get the class assignment, we'll have you come in and we'll start the class. And once we get to the class, then we'll still go through the basic screening as well. I go back through all the basic screening again to make sure that you are a qualified candidate to take the course.
Okay. Yeah, there's no mental issues and all that type of stuff going on there.
Right. I want to make sure that you've been screened, that you haven't had any type of drug treatment, or that you are in a drug treatment facility, or that you have some type of psychiatric treatment that's still existing.
Okay. So just like we talked about with the weapon being in the home, there are so many, I guess, myths and pros and cons as opposed to carrying a license. So I guess the question would likely be, what are the pros and cons of becoming someone who's licensed to carry?
I would say some of the pros are that you know that you're going to protect yourself. And I always ask people, what is your life worth? Can you put a value on your life? And the answer is no. Because there's only one of you, and you can't be replaced. So having that security, I always say it's like insurance. It's like it's better to have and not need than to need and not have. So that's one of the values that I actually think about, having the benefits of having a license to carry. So that way, if you need it, you have it.
Right.
But you don't necessarily have to have it. And it's also like a driver's license. People have driver's license, but does everybody that have a driver's license actually have a car? And the answer is no. So just because you get a license to carry doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a weapon in your home if you don't want one.
Right.
But you have the opportunity to get one if you do want one.
Okay, cool. I like that. Because I guess you talked about the fact that you have a license, you don't have a car. But I guess if you have a license and I guess most of the time you're instructed that if you go out and you get a license and you start carrying, you do always want to carry. Is that correct, or do you agree with that?
I disagree, because there's times that I don't want to carry. There's
Okay.
times that I don't have my weapon on me. And then there's times when I don't have my weapon on me and I get into a situation and I think like, wow, that was close. Why did you leave your weapon at the house today? And those are questions that plague my mind.
Okay.
A situation happened just recently where I was in a situation and I didn't have my weapon on me, and I was like, okay, the best thing I can do right now is really just get out of this situation, and which what I did.
Okay.
I'm not saying that having my weapon on me would have changed the course of anything, but just that sense of security, knowing that, hey, if I needed this thing to happen, I would have had it.
That sense of security.
Sense of security.
I want to talk about that more when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more of Alfred J Dix III.
Howdy, folks.
It's the biggest annual event in the Lone Star State. Hundreds of can't-miss activities are included in admission, like free concerts, shows, and activities for the whole family. Fun, fantastic food, thrilling rides and games. Texas-sized fun deep in the heart of Dallas. Don't wait for the gate. Buy your State Fair of Texas tickets, food, and ride coupons online and save big at BigTex.com. September 29th through October 22nd in Fair Park.
Welcome back. If you've been with us any length of time, then you've heard us talking with Alfred J Dixon III. I can't say his name now. I'm so excited about everything that's going on we're talking about. This whole thing about protecting our families and really being able to protect ourselves when we really need to in situations that we find ourselves in sometimes out on the street. We're talking about weapons training. We're talking about safety for your family today. Alfred, again, thank you for being here. We really appreciate having you on to talk about this very important subject.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Man, right before we went to break, you laid something out there that I want to delve into a little bit more. Without giving all of it away, you talked about there was a situation that you recently encountered where you wished that maybe you had your weapon on you. You'd have felt a little bit better about having your weapon on you.
Right.
Talk about that some more.
Okay, that sense of security. Basically what I was doing, I was coming off of work, and I was not in uniform, and I was coming home. It was late. I worked the midnight shift.
Yes.
And so I was coming home at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, and someone had approached my vehicle. Man. And I was kind of in a jam because there was a vehicle in front of me, so I couldn't get out of that situation. And when the person approached my vehicle, I didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
And I didn't have my firearm on me. So I kind of felt threatened, and I kind of told the person, to go away, and they just kept coming. And so fortunately the light turned green, and I was able to just go through the light and just get out of that situation, because you don't know if this person was coming up to what their intent was.
Yeah.
So you always have your conscience going off, and your alerts are always going off when you start to see people that may be approaching your vehicle or coming at you at a certain way. And so you want to have that sense of security.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we make that distinction that we're talking about weapons safety, and we're talking about being able to protect yourself in situations where your life or you're being threatened. Right. We're not talking about brandishing a weapon just to be having a weapon, that type of thing. But we're talking about being able to protect yourself when you need to.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I think, like I said, family is most important. So if you have your family, you want your family to feel safe. Yeah. That's the reason why a lot of people buy security alarm systems. That's the reason why people pay for that security. Yeah. So my thing is having that added value or security to protect yourself, vice depending on someone else for that security. Yeah, yeah. And if you're just joining us, we're talking today with Alfred J Dixon III. He is a licensed to carry instructor. His company is D3 Weapons Training, and he actually takes you through the process of actually becoming a licensed to carry citizen. And he is not only that, but he's also a retired Marine who spent 23 years in Marines, and he's a marksmanship instructor. And I left out something earlier. You actually instituted a course that the Marines are still using today. Is it ATFP? It is. ATFP, Anti-Terrorism Force Protection. Talk a little bit about that particular course and the fact that it's still being used today by the Marine Corps. Basically what I did is I developed a course from start to scratch. And that course consisted of the day in the life of a Marine in an anti-terrorist force protection situation. Yeah. They have, it's a daily operation. They go through this course for 7 days. Yeah. And at the end of that, they're going to graduate with a certificate that's going to say that, hey, I'm an anti-terrorist force protection. There's 2 tests that I had to write. I had to go through a board. I had to go to a general board, if you will, a panel of SMEs, what we call in the Marine Corps. It's when you talk about a SME, you're talking about the experts, right? The experts in this situation, whatever the case is. Yeah, subject matter expert. Right, subject matter expert. So I went there and I sat through this course, and at the end they told me, they said, hey, they approved it. Yeah. Which my heart dropped, because I was sitting there thinking about it. I put a lot of time. I put 410 hours of man hours into this project. Man. And it was approved, and to this day, that course still exists. Man. They're teaching it in Virginia. Okay. See, I applaud you for that because, this is, again, when we're talking about someone who's actually training folks now, this is the type of training that folks get when they enroll into your course. Right. And because you're now bringing that to the civilian world. I want to talk a little bit now. Let's go talk about what are some of the safeguards that are put into place to ensure that the wrong people are not granted a license to carry. I think that's important. We are the gatekeepers as the instructors here. There's a difference between us and there's a barrier between us and DPS, Department of Public Safety. We are that barrier. We are the gatekeepers. We're the ones that actually do the screening. I talked about the screening process at the beginning to make sure that people are qualified, that we're not taking in criminals, We're not taking in people that are in a psychiatric ward or being treated for drugs. So we go through that screening process. We ask certain questions to make sure that we are getting the right person for the license.
Okay.
And we're not just getting anyone to just come through the course and take the course and just for money's sake.
Yeah. So you're actually doing the screening process. Right. Let's talk about this. I mean, because of course, many times, let's just say it, I'm going to say it the way it is in the African American community, we don't want the government in our business. We don't want the government to know many things about us for whatever reason. I mean, maybe some reasons valid, some maybe not so valid. But there are some people who say, I don't want to become a licensed to carry person because I don't necessarily need a license in order to have a firearm or a shotgun in my home to protect my family. Right. The only reason I want to get a license is so I can carry my weapon on me when I'm out and about. So those folks who say, I don't want to become licensed because I don't want the government to know that I'm licensed or anyone to know that I'm a licensed carrier. What do you say to that?
I would say that you have the gun. Okay. Might as well get it licensed. It's like a car.
Do it the right way.
Do it the right way. It's like a car. You know, you get a car. Some people drive the car, they don't have insurance. But when you get pulled over by the police officer, you don't have insurance, you're going to get a ticket. Mm-hmm. You know, so my thing is if you own the weapon, get the weapon registered, get it licensed. You know, so that way you know that, hey, if my weapon was ever stolen and I was to call the cops and say, hey, I'm missing a weapon and this is the serial number, they'll be able to track that weapon down. If that weapon's not registered and it's stolen and it falls in the hands of the wrong people, then we have unregistered weapons out there on the street that people can use, and that's what you see in the news all the time.
Man, good stuff. Okay, so talk us through the final moments. Talk us through what it takes to enroll in D3 weapons training and what's the process of me becoming a licensed to carry individual.
The process, like I said, is calling us up. We're going to go through a screening process. It's a few questions. It's not a lot of questions. We're going to ask you a few simple screening questions. Mm-hmm. We enroll you into the course, and then once you enroll into the class, we set that class. You're going to be in class for about 4 hours, a period of instruction, and then there's going to be a test, a written test. At that point, what we're going to do is we're going to go through proficiency on the weapon itself. Mm-hmm. And then we'll go to the range and we'll actually shoot. And at the range, that's where you'll receive most of your marksmanship training. Okay. You know, I can coach you and tell you what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, and how to get you situated on hitting the X, if you will. Yes. And then at the completion of that, there's a grading score that you have to complete. It's about a 170. Mm-hmm. And then I have an application that's going to be filled out, all the paperwork, and then we'll send you your certificate. We'll give it to you actually, and you send that into DPS. Okay. And once it goes into DPS and you say the state fees, your license comes in just like a driver's license. Okay. And of course, the question is always, what's the cost? From nuts to bolts, what's the cost? The nuts to bolts right now, I would say because we have the cost is going to be dropping in September. Mm-hmm. We don't know the exact date, but the state cost is going to be $40. Okay. Right now, it's currently $140. If you have no experience in military or anything like that. My class runs about $100. It's $99. It's $100. And we have packages, and it's sort of hard to say because I have packages. Right. I just became a notary. You know, I got my notary in, so I can notarize forms. So there's a separate business entity in that in itself. Right. But the class itself is $100. Okay. You know, so then we have different packages from there. Final question for you. We got a few minutes left. Who would you recommend becoming a licensed carrier? I would say any person who wants to feel safe. Okay. If you're a homeowner, if you are a father and you have children in your home, you want to protect your home, I would recommend that anyone that has a home, whether you're in an apartment or whatever the case is, to get yourself protected, take the course, get registered, and that way you can support yourself, you can protect yourself, and you can stop paying for security. Man, I love that. If again, you've heard it, he summed it up just better than I can. But again, you've got the information, D3 Weapons Training, look him up, get the information, and go out and get your license. And get your license, get your weapon, and then you can continue to go to the range to perfect the use of that weapon and understanding of that weapon to where you feel safe having that weapon in your home. But like he said before, it's that sense of security. So our hope in this show today was to bring you information that you may better prepare yourself to protect your family. Until the next time, take care of yourself.